Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Epic Podcast with me, Edric. And, well, this time around, it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to be talking a little bit more about wellness. Now, before you think this is some, witchcrafty kind of thing, it's not, okay? I came across an article relatively recently about this thing called polytasking. That basically means taking on so many different roles in a day that it kind of consumes you. So I've had a wonderful conversation previously with the founder, the owner of DeepForest. He's into tea appreciation, specifically Chinese teas at this point in time. As you can see over here, we are going to be doing a little bit of a, chat over tea. So welcome and thank you for joining us. I'd love to introduce our guest for this particular episode, and that's John. Hi, John.
Hey, hello.
Okay, I know I'm doing this little ASMR thing for today. I'm not sure why. Perhaps it's just the nature of your home. We are filming in your place, and thank you so much for opening it up to us.
Gladly.
For all of you who are watching and listening, here you are in John's living room together with us right now. Today's podcast is really about understanding not just his business journey of how he started up DeepForest, but also being able and learning how to, in this very, very busy world, how we can actually sit down, enjoy ourselves, and truly understand what it takes to, take a break, smell the roses or the tea leaves in this case, and enjoy the rest of the day, but still maintaining your focus. Okay, so John, here we go. Okay, yeah, I'm just throwing you straight into it.
Okay.
Tell me more about DeepForest.
Okay, I started DeepForest last year, and it's probably a success after many failures. After I left teaching, COVID came, and everybody had a tough time. I mean, I had to do a career switch, which it's successful in letting me learn a lot of life lessons, but it wasn't successful in netting me enough income for my bank account. So so eventually, I told myself that maybe if I started something on my own, then whatever I do will contribute to my own personal journey. And hence, I told myself I would start DeepForest.
When you were a teacher, right, versus starting up your own business, you mentioned that it was much more liberating and you had a lot more self-discovery during this period. Now, what is it that this journey, right, in entrepreneurship is, I would say to you, more beneficial than it was being a teacher at the time?
So I think along the lines of 2013 till maybe 2020 or 2019, I went into depression. And I felt that I didn't know it was depression, but I just felt that why can't I settle my issues and problems like how everybody does? And I use sports, martial arts, and a lot of other physical activities to numb the pain in me, which helped initially, but later on things got a bit more complicated. So coming back to your question, right? When you are in pain or you are not well mentally, right? There isn't much avenue or people you want to or you know of to talk to. And I was told not to tell others about my problems because other people are not very happy about what I've been doing when I was in school. Gradually, it got a bit tough because I took a lot of MCs. Not that I really want to, but I needed to. I love the kids, when I'm teaching, but I was a bit desperate. So eventually, I got a lot of MCs. The good thing about what happened was the doctors that see me in a medical review were very authentic, and they asked me whether I needed help, and they are ready to help me. And later on, 2 years down the road, 2022, I started DeepForest.
Entrepreneurship, as they say, is a lonely journey. So many a times I'm also talking to a number of friends who are doing their own thing, and there's this whole thing that we're still joking about, which is you're lonely, but you're not alone, or you're lonely together, in that sense, right? But that being said, I mean, of course, it's not like a whole doom and gloom, end of the world kind of situation. We go through those ups and downs. At the same time, right, I want to also draw on your expertise or your experience in learning how to, or at least what tea appreciation ceremonies, right, actually taught you along the way. Because many a times we get stuck. And to be honest, right, tea appreciation, very much like, again, any kind of appreciation, wine, art, takes time, takes effort, takes focus. But what does it really do for you?
As we are talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
I will start preparing to brew.
Okay.
Very simply. Earlier, before we did everything, right, I already took out the tea I want to drink today. So this tea is white tea, and they call it, but it's a bit older, so it's
Let
like
me turn this for you.
7 years older.
Sorry, this tea is 7 years old.
Yeah, let me guess. 3. Oh no, yeah, 7.
7.
7.
Well, hold on. Doesn't tea rot in 7 years?
If you keep it in the right conditions, it doesn't. In fact, it gives you a different kind of flavor profile. Later, you will enjoy this.
Okay, I have to say, at the very beginning, there was this little light funk to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not sure whether that's the base of this thing, but there is that. The Chinese tea flavor is really there. It came up at the end of it.
Yeah, this is
Interesting.
Lao Bai Cha, or aged white tea.
Aged white tea. Okay, so this is really an interesting thing for me because while you're brewing that, right, again, there are so many different kinds of teas. I didn't know that Chinese teas had so many varietals. So most of the time, we go to the Chinese restaurant, you only have like maybe 5, 6 on the menu at the very most.
So there's a difference between tea appreciation and tea drinking. Oh, you'll probably be hearing the water that's going to boil.
Yeah.
Tea appreciation basically means just focusing on the tea itself, and it's normally a more concentrated brew than your usual restaurant setting. Tea drinking normally happens when you have a medium to big size cup, and you don't have to drink it too strong unless you want it to be. So it's like a beverage rather than something for you to appreciate. But for now, let us just wait for the water to boil, and then we can take a look at how it's done. Not the most proper way, because we are constrained in a small setting.
Yeah, you're going to have to describe it because for those who are actually listening, you're going to have to kind of walk them through those steps as well. But while we're actually waiting for the water to boil, as you can hear probably in the background, I'm actually very curious to find out what exactly does tea do for you? You mentioned that you had 10 years of this. There was this fascination of tea that had to come from somewhere.
Okay, so a bit about myself. My mom is Taiwanese. They have a habit of drinking tea, but drinking tea rather than more of appreciation, but mostly drinking. When I was young, my dad's side is Hokkien. So what we would do, right, is we will have this, how should I put it, this rattan bag. And this rattan bag, there is a big teapot and a couple of glasses, or rather porcelain cups. And we always give it to our guests, and also we drink among ourselves. So since young, I definitely have a strong tea culture, but it's more of drinking rather than appreciating. But I liked what I drank. And when you dig deeper into your family heritage, I found out that my ancestors were actually tea farmers, and they are from Anxi, Sangma Shui Chun, and they have tea farms there. So now that you can hear, right, the water has been boiled, but we do not use the water until the water settles down. So when it's bubbling, right, we will wait for it to be quiet, and then we put it in the pot. So what I'm going to do now, right, is to warm the pot and the different other teawares, and be prepared for the brewing process later on.
Okay, for those of you who are watching this or listening, now, again, thank you for being part of this entire journey. And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, it's really about learning how to be still and just being here. I am terrible at being still. So that time around, John, you and I were having tea that time around here, right, at your place, and you were introducing these different teas to me. I'm just like, oh my God, this is amazing. But what I really drew from the experience was the fact that I could just sit here, watch these things happen, right, and enjoy the process.
Yeah, the thing is, what we really want, right, when we brew, sorry about it, because I'm using an imperfect apparatus because it's done by my friend. He has this
You're not blaming
wabi-sabi.
him, are you?
Yeah, no, I'm not blaming him. He has
Whatever
this.
you did an imperfect thing.
Yeah, but it's fine because I love. I'm beginning to enjoy the main thing about being imperfect, as in you cannot always do everything correctly, and you're bound to make mistakes sooner or later. But of course, we do not want to make mistakes so much. It's such as is our nature, right?
No, but to be honest, right? Okay, I'm coming across very, very ignorant right now.
Yeah.
So what happens when you make a mistake, when you pour the wrong temperature of water into the tea? I mean, of course, if you have scalding hot water or you have almost boiling water as compared to cold water, I mean, what difference really does it make?
How cold? How?
No, I mean like room temperature, right?
I guess if that's a tough question, but
it is, because the thing is that you're talking about the imperfections, and I'm just wondering, so what big difference does it really make? I mean, when you think about it, right? This is becoming a philosophical debate.
This is not. It has to be technical as well as philosophical. In my opinion, right? I mean, it's just my own opinion. I would remove the water and drain it and put the hot water again, and to taste to see whether the tea has changed much or it's still possible to drink before I actually don't bother to drink it. But that being said, right, there's also this kind of a way of making cold brew or room temperature brew just by soaking the tea leaves into water and then leave it overnight. So a bit like life, right? Sometimes we are posed with a lot of situations and obstacles, and the first thing is try not to panic. And we look at whatever choices, because sometimes even though there is no choice, we have to make a choice. And that is the difficult part for a lot of people, because it will go into fight or flight. But what I believe that we can probably do is still try to remain calm and make the best choice in whichever situation we are in. So the challenge is to not fall back into the reflex action and to take control of your here and now and to think about what's next. And all this takes practice. It's easy to say, but you need a lot of, how should I put it? I wouldn't say training, but I would think life experience for you to go the way you want to.
One of the things probably is being conscious about it. One of the biggest things about I think we're probably talking of like borderline topic of self-awareness, perhaps. You have to be very conscious of these things, right? Okay, I'm going through this. Why am I feeling this pain? Why am I going through this experience? How can I learn? And what should I learn from these things? And how do I get better at this and that, right? So it's putting those thoughts, actions, words into, action. You have to put it under some scrutiny as well.
That is right. Sometimes we are not in the position to make every correct decision. In life, we meet a lot of people. Sometimes we are lucky that, we are fortunate enough to meet people that have gone through a lot as well, or either that or they have achieved a certain level of wisdom and knowledge. And they are able to advise us. But do know that we are always a prisoner of our own thoughts. We sometimes look at ourselves in a mirror and we think that person in the mirror is who we are. Most often than not, we have a distorted image of who we are. Because if we are very in sync and very confident about who we are, who we are, the people around us will not give us, I mean, the people that are close to us will not give us certain feedback that we think that, need for improvement. So how does the wisdom come about in our case? The wisdom from us is to be able to tap on the wisdom of others without your ego and without any negative feelings of being scrutinized or criticized. Because our reflex action, like I was talking about, is to say that we are not like that. And our reflex action is always to like defend. The fact of life is this: in order to move forward, right, we must not dwell so much on the past. We can choose our decisions for the present, and we have a vision for our decisions in the future. So if you want to put this in life and entrepreneurship, right, we should have a vision of what we are, minimum maybe 3 years down the road.
I want to just hear more about the tea industry. I mean, it's quite fascinating because a lot of my experience is just purely getting them from a Chinese restaurant. Okay. So that being said, okay, when people charge you for like $3 for a cup of tea, right, and give you the whole a pot after that, which is refillable, right? Value for money. But how big is this tea industry? Because last you told me there are some that are like $1,000 worth of tea, and even higher. So give me a range of, first off, what the price point is, and then we'll move on to another part of the landscape.
I always go for minimum average to higher end teas. For a bit better ones, maybe a kilo from 160 to 4,000 and above.
Yeah. So this is where I want to ask as well. With other things like wines and grapes and fruit and whatever you have, right? There's always a reason why they can charge that premium. So what makes apart from apart from flavor profiles and all this that we talk about, what adds on to the price of the tea? Are we talking about sustainability, location, rarity? What are we looking at?
The certifications have a cost to that.
Sorry, there are certifications now?
Yeah.
How does it work? Like who? Okay, now you're making me go deep into this rabbit hole of who certifies tea.
So I was talking to a few friends regarding a certain topic about importing tea to Singapore.
Yeah.
And I was helping a Vietnamese SME, but not really SME because they're actually quite big, but maybe in their country they are considered SME. Find out the processes that's required for them to export tea to Singapore. And there's a few things that I noted. Of course, we have to have someone to import the tea from them.
Right.
And you need a license to get anything that's more than 5 kg. Yeah. And for them to bring into Singapore, they have to undergo checks. Besides the certified organic and everything, right? They have to undergo checks by government entities. So they will probably provide samples to the entities for a nominal fee, and then they get certified as safe or anything, and then you can, in the future, they will be able to import in bulk,
right,
without much problems or withholding from the customs.
I see.
For the organic side, right? So this is an issue because every country got their certifying bodies, and if you ask me who certifies them, it's like what I was saying previously, is probably an entity that's regulating agriculture, food or vegetation in their country, and they have their standards and then they certify. European is probably by Europe. The main thing is the Europe seems a bit, to a certain extent, easier because they are a alliance, right? So probably their standards are like true for all countries, but I'm not sure. But it just seems that way. The next market we are trying to get into will probably be the United States, and I've heard that being certified as okay or maybe organic or maybe some standard needs some effort. And this is what we are currently researching on, because ultimately US will be one of our target markets.
why I'm asking all these things, again, I'm just fascinated with the idea that a simple tea leaf, or what we deem as a simple tea leaf, actually has a lot of process, a lot of certification, and a lot of, well, scrutiny, right? I think because sustainability has become quite a buzzword. So, fair practices to the farmers, where you get your stuff. Now, you have been going to a few places, last you told me, which are pretty interesting spots, right? To meet with the farmers directly. Do you actually look at their farms and perhaps also look at their working conditions, whether they have, are they sustainable sources?
So I got a few things regarding this.
Oh, yes, please.
I'll give you a general outlook. For people who are in tea, right, sometimes we have to be very discerning. Potentially, I'll give you some generic situations. The farmer invites you to their house. They let you try some tea. And then they say, this tea, this price, at this particular quantity. And say, okay, let me have like maybe 10 kgs or 100 kgs. And when it's exported and you receive it at home, you realize that, this is so different from what we talk about. So that's one thing, right? So buying tea is a little bit like the Russian roulette. Besides how good or how strong your relationship with the vendor, the farmer, the merchant, or anyone in particular, there's a bit of luck. Second thing, what I buy in 2020 may be radically different in 2023, mainly because of the weather changes.
Okay.
And the harvest. Sometimes I can get 10 kgs from 2020, but I can only get 3 kgs in 2023, and they are more expensive because of drought.
Okay.
So if you do find a vendor or a farmer that can consistently always give you the same amount of tea leaves, you must be a bit discerning because those tea leaves may not be from him.
He
Yeah.
could, and that farmer could essentially be like consolidating or aggregating from other people and then selling it off as their own.
Okay, some insights. I mean, some people know. Some people may not like me to say, but for me, it's very simple. I believe in good quality tea. Good quality tea, regardless of where it's from. Okay, so I've been going to Thailand, and I'm also know a few people in Vietnam. So who they export to, besides people like us, they export to countries like Taiwan and China. So if you don't already know Yunnan, if you know the climate, they often have droughts. Yeah, and because of the weather issues nowadays, right, a lot of other countries, their produce is not as much. So you can figure where the meat in their country tea sometimes may come from. Yeah, but that's okay for me because as long as the environment is good, they do not use weed killers, no excess pesticides or no excess fertilizer, I'm fine with it. But from my perspective,
but how would you know? That's the thing. I
that's
know.
the difficult thing.
Yeah, correct. I know you have to be discerning, and I'm not asking for like a foolproof solution. But the question is, when it comes to things like that, right? How do you really know?
Okay, first thing, I wouldn't say you really know. Maybe the super skilled ones can taste it. But what some people really do is they go over to the farmer's place, they taste the thing, they bring their own bags, and they get the people and straight away get that batch of things into their truck.
Are you serious?
And they drive it to the factory, and they make and they go undergo the oversee the process of the processing and the tea by themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is one way.
But then you might as well just own your own premises, right?
No.
Then you have full control, what? Then you can guarantee the QC.
There are people who do that in Singapore. I know at least one. And a few, and in Taiwan they also sort of like rent some of the tea plantations from the aboriginals in Yunnan. But the truth is, unless you're really, really, really someone that can tell, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, which is very true. I mean, to be honest, right? Like, how would you know one from the other?
So initially, it was just a thought, right? But my friend, recently when I go to Thailand, he passed me a tea cake. He said he bought made by the Thailand manufacturer,
Mm-hmm.
but what was printed on the tea cake was Yunnan Xishuabana, meant for export to that country already. So to me is a bit sensitive to go into this, but the main thing everybody got to know is it's not about where the tea come from. So when someone talks to you about where the tea come from, you can believe the person by faith, no problem, but you really don't know. But what is important is when you drink the tea, does it make your mouth fuzzy or buzzy? If it does, right, don't drink it anymore. Does it make your throat like uncomfortable? Same thing. Your gut feel that it's not right. Don't drink it anymore. Or does it make you go to the loo or excessive diarrhea? Of course, this one is quite straightforward. Not anymore. So you want tea that feels comfortable to your body. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing you have to know. A lot of people go for heightened sense,
Mm-hmm.
but do be careful because some of them may become like just essence, and it's not the real thing. So you must be discerning as a drinker, as a purchaser.
Mm.
But that's not what a lot of people are, because it's not something that they focus a lot on.
Right.
But I believe as a human being, right, if we are attuned to our senses, right, whatever we eat and drink, we can feel the difference.
This is very interesting. Now, before we wrap this whole thing up, right, I'd love to also hear from you your experience doing tea appreciation with customers. Now, you run through a certain process, like what we are doing now. You get them to select their teas, which one they like, or you recommend them, right? The teas. But ultimately, what's the experience that you want to give to the people that come over to Deep Forest?
So Deepforest was started in 2022,
Mhm.
right? At that point of time, we just wanted to do simple tea appreciation and maybe to a certain extent do some online retail of tea.
Right?
But it didn't become that way. I wanted more than that. I wanted a personal touch to it.
Uh-huh.
So what happens now is I do a omakase and I tell them a budget, and then they give me a budget and we work something out.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come here, right, they will come for a tasting experience rather than me telling a story. But they are able to ask any questions they want. But most of the time, I should be able to handle the questions. But the main thing is to let their bodies and senses try the tea for themselves, and also for their own self to discern, you know, what they like, they don't like, and what this tea is, rather than someone saying something about the tea that gives them a kind of schema and template, which this is not what I want.
Mm.
I want them to sort of like venture and discover the tea journey by themselves. But my requirement, besides the budget part, is for them to be present. So if they are always on the phone, or a bit is okay, but sometimes if they are really always on the phone, then it defeats the purpose of this whole experience.
Mm.
And I make it a very simplified process. I always want them to have 1 minute of silence for themselves before we start the session, because I will on some nature music to let them be immersed in the environment of um, nature, safety, and space. So that is what I want. So after the whole session, um, some of them are able to travel into the places the tea are from, because by some of the feedback they tell me regarding the teas, right, I can imagine that they are actually there. So it's kind of like a tea trip. Yeah. But what I really want at the end of the day for them, right, is a sense of liberation from the problems around them or the obstacles they face. And maybe this sense of liberation will give them some time to step back. And I go back to what I said before. Get them to step back and be away from the reflex fight and flight situations, and to relook at what they're doing. T as something to let them have the space to think about what they're doing and what to do next, rather than be reactive to it.
It almost sounds like you're running some sort of counseling clinic.
I think because of what I experienced in the past.
Okay.
I'm not saying that everybody don't go through things in life. I just want to let people know how things can be seen in a different way, so that they don't ruminate in the negative thoughts every time.
Got it.
I wish this was like a counseling session, but it really depends on whether the person wants to listen to me.
John, thank you so much for sharing so much about the teas, the experience, and not only that, I think giving the insight into the tea culture and, well, the darker side of dark teas, I guess. Sorry, very punny, I know. But that being said, right, again, this whole podcast was really about appreciating not just the tea, but just the experience, being here, enjoying the tea, chatting, with your friends. And again, thanks so much for listening or watching this and being part of this entire journey. We really appreciate it. Now, as you know, we always finish off the podcast with a standard 10-question quickfire round.
Oh.
Okay. So that being said, are you ready?
Bring it on.
Okay. So question number 1. Give me the word that you like the most.
Equanimity.
Okay. One word you really dislike.
Hate.
If you could have a conversation with anybody, dead or alive, fictional, non-fictional, who would that be?
My maternal grandmother.
Favorite dish to eat?
This is difficult, but it's a beef noodle soup from a long time ago when I was young. Some random street store when I was in Taiwan.
Favorite travel spot or the next travel spot you like to go to?
Favorite travel spot would be Japan for the time being.
What do you say to yourself in the mirror every morning?
I don't do that. But if I had to look at myself and say, I would tell myself that you're doing well and you're progressing. Regardless of what you're doing, every single second or minute will pass and you are moving towards the future rather than being stuck in the past.
What does retirement look like to you?
Retirement looks like I have a place near nature or in nature. I don't need to really bother about the material stuff because it's settled. I can drink my tea with my wife and hopefully kids in the future. And I can do my cultivation and also enjoy myself in the moment in the nature.
How do you want to be remembered? What's your legacy?
To be remembered as the person who has adopted tea in a way of life, helping him triumph difficult situations and live his life like a tea person. In Chinese, we just call it very layman terms. They call it 茶人.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Again, this camera is yours. Let other people know how they can get in touch with you, as well as perhaps experience something from DeepForest.
You can contact me on my website, and we will have a cup of tea together, and we can follow up from there. My Instagram is DeepForest SG. My website is DeepForest.SG, and you can also find me on LinkedIn as the founder of DeepForest SG and under the name John Lim.
Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much again for listening in to the Epic Podcast with me and John Lim for this episode. We'll see you again soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.